Hello everybody and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host and disembodied hands queen, Quindy, overseer of all that is chaotic, i.e. this stream, Reaper, you know, not that she can really tame the chaos, but does she really want to? And then there's Justin and John, and Kiki is in heat, and Kiki is currently slumped by the door, you know, head on paws going, Mama, what's wrong with me? Kiki is now a teenager. So, Kiki has graduated to teenager. And she didn't actually nibble me this morning. Yeah, I know, right? Hormones. Hormones for Kiki. So now, and poor us, because now, well, she'll be okay for the first week, but then she's, like, on house arrest. She's on yard arrest for 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks. Yeah, hormones are hard. Yep. So, on the other hand, this is about the time. I mean, I wish she'd held off till around a year, but I mean, she's almost 10 months, so. And her sister went in a week ago, so. Seems like the genetics are in line. But yeah, so 2 years from now, we'll be actually having puppies. I get to do that again. It's been a while. It's been over a decade since I raised a litter. But that assumes she passes her remaining testing. We still need to get hips and elbow x-rays. But yeah, you'll take 2. Well, you've got 2 years, Kodiak, because it'll be a Cohen with Bridget. So you have a chance at a Kiki puppy. But you have 2 years to get that fence. Oh, huh? What, huh? You need to refresh them, probably, Pendrake. Pendrake sounds like he's still on the hosted stream. But everybody else is here. But yeah. So that's where the Keekster is at today. So maybe she'll come in and say hi later. Somebody tell Pendrake to refresh so that I can get my paint out. Oh, Twitch is glitching. Oh no. No twitchy glitches allowed. I even know what I'm working on today. Like, I have a plan. I'm an Anne with a plan. Yes, refresh. Refresh. I'm so refreshing. But Pendrake should be refreshing. Twitch be twitching. I'm sorry. I'm not getting any notifications on my end. Oh boy. You don't see any issues? Well, that's good. So I ordered my hardcover yesterday from Ingram's, and I'm super excited, although, you know, Zachariah beat me to it, so he's going to get his first. But yeah, if you find any issues with it, Z, let me know. You might get yours a day before mine, if you have time to glance at it. Oh, is it? Thank God! It only took them a month! Jesus, Goodreads! Thank Lord! Now I can go and actually add things to it. Oh, jeez. Woof. Well, let me put that on my to-do list for today. You're fine, Zachariah. You just you were first off the bat. And I was like, whoa. Hey, it's all thumbs up for me. It would take a lot of butter to slather a walrus. Oh, you want to say hi, Keekers? Oh, she says, I was late, everybody, but I'm feeling weird. So I'm sorry. My ears fell off, too. You see how my ears fell off? Yeah, Mom always, oh, there they were. They came back just for us. Oh, there they are. That's what we say when our ears are back. We're like, oh, no, your ears fell off. Oh, no. Good girl. Yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, it's a bag. Okay, Papa, let's go back out here. I know you've got half of a bully stick left, so you're going to be okay. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, boop, boop, I love you. Good girl. All right. The Keekster has visited. Oh, Crowley, I had no idea. So, yeah, I should have asked you. D. Clearman at the... Oh, no. D. Clearman with the quadruple. All right, everybody, are we ready? Is Small Cat ready? Small Cat's got to be ready. Quadruple subiversary, quadruple subiversary, quadruple subiversary. Happy quadruple subiversary. Yeah, like that. Oh, boy. Woof. Yes, yes. Kiki is in heat, everybody. So yeah, we're gonna weather that now. We need a routine for that. I think it was my second. I think I did another one. I don't know. D. Clearman is one of the earliest people. Oh no. Yeah, Small Scottish Cat will have to catch the VOD. I'm sorry, Small Scottish Cat. But yeah. Excellent, excellent. So yeah, let me make a note on my phone that I need to update my Goodreads author page. That's great news. That was one of the things that I was waiting on. Where's my to-doist? To-doist. We'll put that at the end of lunch. Update Goodreads author page. Yay, or at least take a look at it and make sure everything looks good. Awesome. So yeah, follow me on there if you guys are on there. Hypothetically, I don't remember if they let you know if the author gets a new book out. Some places, like BookBub is supposed to, Amazon is supposed to, but often doesn't. Stuff like that. Okay, Nara, your cats can be stand-ins for Small Scottish Cat today. But yeah, I don't know. D. Clearman might be my first squad. Like, something in my head says one other person beat him to it a few days ago. But that seems weird because D. Clearman is definitely one of the first peeps. Oh, your sub just renewed yesterday. All right. They must have heard you complaining. Well, it was the third time I submitted the damn form. And at least they had the books, like, they had the books right. Are these two books yours? You know, the hardcover, or the ebook, I think it was the ebook and the regular book, or the regular and the hardcover. And I'm like, yes! Oh, Lord. So, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I'll take a look at it and see, but that's just happy. That's what I needed to do. So, happy. I'll take a look at it. Thanks for heads up. You guys are always so good about checking my shit. You're better at it than I am. This morning I was writing instead of... Well, see, and that's how it should be, right? The writer should be writing, and then she gets on to stream, and her stream updates her on the random miscellaneous crap that writers also have to take care of. Sweet. Awesome. Well, okay, let's do some leather. We're going to do the classic. Again, I'm going to do my old classic recipe for leather, which is a very orange leather. It's kind of based on Games Workshop leather. The way I used to do Games Workshop leather was with bestial brown and whatever their darkest brown was. I don't remember. Scorched brown, I think. At that time, that was the name. Now they've branded everything, so it's non-generic, but and then highlighting with a very orange brown. So what we're doing here is blackened, harvest, and orange. This gives you a very vibrant leather. It's like that dark brown leather where when the sunlight hits it, you get those very orange highlights. But it still can, it can still work, and it works here because we've got this blue, and also the orange-brown echoes some of the highlights we've already got in our hair, so that's going to resonate. That's going to, you know, make everything kind of blend, you know, go together, so to speak. But yeah, super duper. Churning along with my happy little, book. Got onto, now I'm in the rough places though. Like up till now I've been editing and rewriting chapters that are pretty smooth in book 2, pretty smooth, but today I hit a rough one. I think it's only like one step removed from actual rough draft, and in those days my drafts were very rough. So I'm gonna have a bit of work here. It's Ash's chapters because I wanted to get the girls straightened out first. So I did rewrites on their chapters first. And now I'm on Ash. And yeah, pretty rough. It'll have some adjustments. We'll see. We'll see how it is. White armor. Are you talking like white metallics or white like ceramic, like Stormtrooper kind of armor? Because white armor is tough. But I have not painted it for a while. I guess I could put that on my list. Ah, Stormtrooper Space Marines. Okay, okay. Yeah. Honestly, Mazamune, I would start with like a lighter blue-gray, probably like Space Wolf Gray. Like but the lighter one, like sometimes Space Wolf Gray isn't light. Sometimes they make it darker, like Shadow Gray used to be. But like I would start with something like Snow Shadow. That's the equivalent to Space Wolf Gray in Master Series. That's if you want a cold white. If you want a warm white, then you usually want to start with something that's like a beige or a brownish or a cream color. So you want something that isn't too dark. So, like, if I was looking for, like, kind of a beige white, I would go with, like, something like that. So it's fairly light. It's like a mid-light. Like, if I had to grab the color wheel grayscale, I'd say start with something like a value... I want to say, like, a value 8. Don't start real dark. You can always add more shadows in the dark crevices, but you don't want to start with that because it's going to be so hard to bring the white up. And I always start with my dark when I'm doing white or anything light. I always start with the dark because otherwise I don't get dark enough. But the biggest thing with white is just to remember that every single armor plate, 75% of that surface or close to it has to be white. Either white or really close to white. So you could do like a lighter transition that's really close to white but still an off-white and then do your pure white. But in that case... I'd say your shadow's 25%, your transition is 25%, and white is, like, honestly 50% of each plate. That's the key. It's surface control. If you don't have that much white on each plate, the armor will not read as white. It will read as cream or light gray or whatever your underlying color is. You gotta go for that white. But white armor is probably, other than like yellow armor, white armor, and like Deathwing. Deathwing actually does, if you were doing Deathwing, then I would say start with a cream or something like the Desert Sand. Desert Sand or like Yellowed Bone or something, like, and then bring it up. Because the Deathwing definitely are like, they're white, but they're like bone colored white. So you start with a bone or a bone, kind of like a color that can be a bone color first, instead of a real cold white with Deathwing. Like Deathwing Terminators, for example. But it's the hardest Space Marine to paint. Like, hands down. Like, White Scars, Deathwing Terminators, and then the Imperial Fists. Like, those colors are the hardest Space Marines to paint for sure. So, yeah, so then you need more white. It's all surface control. It really is. It's how much of the surface is actually covered with white. And with actual white, not an off-white. So if you find that your whites are looking dingy or they're looking gray or they're looking cream or they're looking brown, more white. If you expand your highlights, if you expand the size of your highlights and your next step down, you're near white, you'll probably fix the problem. Ah, sisters. Yeah, I like the red armor with the black cloths for my sisters, so that's what I'm doing. Although right now I'm cussing and doing NMM gold armor because I'm working on the matriarch. The big one. All right, I can put that back. I kind of put her aside a little bit, but now I think I'm going to just go back and start like throwing paint at her because I can always refine her once I have paint on her. And I probably shouldn't be painting the big model first. I probably should be painting a unit of something first, but you know how it is. You get the mini and you're like, look, the big mini, and you want to paint it. Been a long time since I painted a Sister of Battle. Not since, boy, like the year 2000, I think. Like, I think it's been that long since because I painted, I did a commission for a unit of them. And it was the color scheme I like. But I'm conflicted now because the new Tyranids are coming out this summer. And I do love me Tyranids. So I'm going to be following that avidly. But I'm going to have to figure out what my color scheme, what my hive color scheme is going to be. They were my first real army. Like, I messed around a little bit before that with Dark Eldar, but then I quickly realized that Dark Eldar are not a very forgiving army, and I'm a very bad strategist and tactician, so I went for something a little bit more forgiving, i.e. hordes of bugs that rush at the enemy and eat their faces. Which is more my style anyway, let's face it. Oh, nice, Kodiak. Well, that's good, because that means you're getting your practice in on the stuff that doesn't matter, so that you can, like, when you're, you know, as you're improving, then you can paint the big guy. All right, Agent Marble. You missed the Kiki, but that's okay. Ah. But yeah, I've always liked Nids. So, my biggest challenge with them, the biggest challenge with Nids, is that you can paint them any color. And so, the choice paralysis is real with Tyranids. I'm just globbing out some of my paint here so we can get going on this leather. But everything is clogged, so I'm sitting here and pokey tooling my heart out. Oh, yeah, look at that. There was a big glob. Look at that booger. That's something you don't see every day. Obviously, my orange-brown has gotten a bit thick. "10 months, almost, Pendrake." So, yeah, that's about right. I mean, smaller breeds tend to go in heat earlier. So, like, 6 months. But big breeds tend to... My past Shilohs were around a year. Kiri went in around a year. But 10 months is perfectly, like, it's within range of normal. Okie dokie. But now you know what, guys? We're screwed if she has a normal heat cycle. Because exactly 6 months, the standard heat cycle in dog is 6 months. 6 months from now is David's and I's honeymoon trip to Hawaii. It's like the dog planned it. The saying with Shiloh Shepherds is, do not let your Shiloh girl see your calendar, because if so, she will immediately make sure that you cannot go anywhere during holidays, yada yada. The most inconvenient time that your dog can go into heat or be having puppies is what she'll pick. So, we will hope that Kiki's heat cycle is more like her mama's, which is her mama and her grandmother are like 7, 8 months, or sometimes even 9 months. So we're gonna have to see how it goes, but that definitely means we have to get an in-house pet sitter. For sure. We can't have the dog going out of the house at that point. So I have to find somebody who will live in our house and take care of Kiki. Oh God, I don't know, Kodiak. A ton of money. Because you need a lot of gaunts. On the other hand, most of when it is a horde army, you usually can buy bigger boxes. Like, usually there's a fair number of models in the troop boxes. Best thing you could do if you really plan on playing, honestly, either buy the starter set when it comes out with the rules, the 10th edition box set, because you get the minis at a huge discount, or go to eBay and find somebody. There'll be tons of people who are breaking up that box set when it comes out and selling off each army bit just for, just because that's what they do. So then you can catch those nids off of, and probably extra nids off of eBay for a decent price. So yeah. Oh yeah, there's some really cool Tyranid jobs out there. My problem has always been just choosing, because how do you choose a favorite color? And the biggest thing, though, with Tyranids is when you choose your color scheme, be sure that it's colors you really enjoy painting, because you are going to be painting a lot of it. A lot. I had 120 gaunts in my army. It does somewhat, Riot Boy, but it's all relative. So warm light. So, okay, let's go to portrait painting, because I always go to, like, canvas painters and how they've done it down through the ages. When you create a natural shadow, so let's say that, and we did this, actually. We did this with Mouseling. So here. Let's get in focus. We have not been in focus. We were very unfocused this morning, everybody. So, okay, so when I went to mix the shadow colors for Mouseling here, down here, I did two things. I wanted to desaturate it because it's in shadow. So one color that I added to that green was red. However, I also knew that my light was yellow, and so I wanted to add the complementary color to the light, and that is purple, right? And so I added red and purple to the green to create my shadow green color. And that creates a very natural looking shadow. Like, the eye definitely interprets that correctly. So that's how you get that warm light produces cool shadows thing, is that the tradition in oil and canvas painting is normally your light source is warm, and so you're using the complementary color from it. So you will go cooler. And also when you darken a color, it reads as cooler. So that's why I say it's relative. It may not be blue. Like, a lot of people think of cool and they think I have to mix blue into my shadows. That's not true at all. And depending on the color, like if this had been blue, I would have been mixing orange into it, right? And that's a warm shift to mute out the blue. But I still would have also been mixing purple in, and that's still warmer than blue. So you see, it's all relative. But the thing is that when you think of warm and cool, remember that the more saturated a color is, the warmer it appears to our eyes. So even though it would still have been warming up the blue to add orange and purple to it, because purple is closer to red, right, than blue, the blue over here would have been brighter and a little bit greener, and so it would still have been warmer. So the shadow would still have been cooler. Does that make sense to you? I also did a cold light source back here with the blue light. You can see this. And that's a very common thing to do as well. When you have a very warm front light, to choose an opposing light source that's very cool so that you can still highlight things, like, especially with NMM. So yeah, so is it true? Yes, but it's all relative, and it's not just that you, like, use blue in your shadows if you know, to make them colder. The best way to create natural shadows is to add the complement of the color that you're working with and the complementary color of the light source that you're working with. And that means, of course, that if you are working with a blue light source, yes, you would add orange to your shadows. Like, that's just the way it goes. And it gets a little weird then, right? But you're also still adding the complement. So if I had blue light, and of course this is always gonna, if you have a colored light source, it's also gonna change very much the saturation of anything here, right? If this light source was blue, his fur would be like browner, like grayish almost. And this would be teal, right? And that would be blue, but it would be light enough blue to still read as white. So colored light also screws everything up. But if you're just working with a regular general light source, which is sunlight, which is very slightly yellow, then you're working with the purple on your shadow, and then plus the complement of whatever your local color is. So that is where that comes from. And yes, it is true, but it's always more complicated than you think. Always more complicated. Alrighty, I'm going to mix up my paints. You know that I'm your girl to tell you why, Riot. But yeah, a lot of people, I mean, some beginning painters, when they hear that, they get very confused because, yeah, they think cold color equals blue, and it doesn't always. Desaturation is a cool effect. And when you add a complement to a color, you are desaturating it naturally, and so you will get that effect. All right, so today we are using my Canon colors for leather for Sophie. I am changing them up just a little as I'm starting with the black and brown, and then I'm mixing a little bit of that into my harvest brown and a little bit of that into my orange brown, and we'll see how that works. But our ending up triad for this is going to look like this, and we are not going to start with this. We're actually going to start with the black and brown. So it has good coverage, and I like to... Essentially, the black and brown is the most neutral of these browns, and I start with it for that reason. If you start with the Harvest Brown, it's a very, very orange brown. It's going to read as an orange on your model. Because she's got red on her, I don't want to do that because it's going to probably clash to put two colors that are so close on the color wheel next to each other, with one being muted and the other one being very vibrant. Yeah, almost always warm, exactly. Silly amount of depth. Scientific level. Most environments are cool. I mean, environments tend to be cool just because, like, they, you know, the colors and the shadows and everything like that, right? Like, I'm looking out at my fence, which is painted a very light gray, and that's definitely very warm right now in the sun, right? So I think it's all relative. I think you have to make the call based on exactly what you're doing. And that's what people hate to hear. Everybody wants a simple rule that they can follow for everything. And it's never that easy. It's never that easy. You have a general guideline that will usually work, but yeah. All right, so we're going to start with the black and brown because, like I said, it's a very neutral brown. Although it itself is reddish, it doesn't really read that way because of how dark it is, how desaturated it is. So it's really good if you want a brown leather and you don't want it to clash with anything, then black and brown can be your baby. And of course, the shadow in its triad is walnut, so if you need to line or shade any part of it, from here, you can reach for the walnut. Although in my paint scheme, this is just the shadow. I'm just starting with the shadow and working up. It wouldn't need to be tweaked, Pendrake, but you'd have to remember that the color shift under that alien sun would be different, right? So instead of always kind of our brain defaulting to like yellow light, our brain would have to default to red light, and the red light would make colors look completely different. The fact that our sun has his mostly white light with all the colors represented means that you can see all the colors. But the minute you have a blue sun or a red sun, some colors become gray. Like, until you bring them inside under a white light, they're going to look gray. So it's very difficult to do those colored light sources. Like, you really have to make sure that it's represented across the figure or it won't read correctly. And many people forget, this is David's biggest pet peeve. Oh, there's another pouch. Many people just kind of like splash the light color on there like it's a paint can, and they don't change the colors of the surrounding, like the areas that would be touched by that light. It would change them. That's why when we did Mouse, we mixed the color of the light into his fur for highlights and into his cloth, into everything. So that yellow with a bit of orange was also the color used to build the highlights for the green and the fur and the skin on the ear there, and everything. So the light color should impact your paint job, and that's why you should always think about that. If you're planning to do a different colored light source, you need to think about what color the model is and make sure you're not setting yourself up to just end up painting a gray model because the colors that you are painting the model in don't work very well with your light color. Relatively. I mean, true and not true with the skin, right? Because your hand, I mean, yeah, your skin is translucent, but you still have bone and stuff that's gonna, you know, because if you look at the underside of my hand just in this light, you can see that it's cooler, right? It's gray. If I take it outside, what I'm going to be getting is bounced light off of the environment up onto the underside of my hand, which is going to probably warm up. You know, it's not going to be a gray shadow anymore. Whereas here I'm just getting, you know, my light isn't strong enough to get that strong of a bounce light, but sunlight is. So that's what tends to warm up the shadow side of skin, is light bouncing from the environment around you that actually is warmer. So yeah, it depends, right? It definitely depends. But yes, the translucency of skin is very interesting. And it's a hard thing to paint. And on 28 millimeter, honestly, you guys don't have to worry about it. Bigger models, transmitted light is a thing. And that's what you call it, by the way, is transmitted light. You get transmitted light through translucent skin. You get transmitted light through the wings of birds near the tips of the feathers. Through butterfly wings, anything that is translucent like that. It's called transmitted light when you can see the light coming through from the other side. It's very, very hard to pull off on miniatures because, of course, our miniatures are opaque. So unless you are painting on tissue or something, like I created some dragon wings back in the day that had tissue paper membranes that I essentially fixed with liquid Sculpey. And those were actually translucent, so I didn't need to paint the transmitted light, but I could accentuate the transmitted light effect. Yeah, some of us might be golden retrievers. I'm sure there are dogs on the internet somewhere. Yeah, but again, on 28 millimeter, everything is simplified on 28 millimeter because your scale is so simplified. Because your normal human standing far enough away to be this size, you wouldn't see any of that subtlety. We pump up the details on our stuff, but mostly at that point, it's exaggerating shadows and highlights. So the subtlety, the complexity and subtlety of the color and light thing is lost at 28 millimeter. The only time you really can play with it is if you have big wings that you're doing that kind of thing with, and then you can get away with it. Okay, so the belt. But yeah, this is not stuff that most people watching this stream are painting 28. But it can be really cool to play with that stuff on a bust if you've got an appropriate bust for it. Because at that scale, you actually can paint it. Cats run the internet. That's true, I guess. Yeah, that's the meme anyway. Translucent pants is a little bit of a different... It's a bit different than the transmitted light, though, Pendrake. Translucent cloth is something you can do on 28. So that's probably like the one example of translucency. That and wings, big wings. That's what people typically do. But when you're trying, like, if you were trying to get the translucency of skin or something, like, that's never going to show at this scale. So transmitted light is light that's passing entirely through something and you're seeing the effect on the other side. Whereas the translucent pants, that's just showing because the skin is pressed up against a surface that's sheer and you're seeing the light of the color of the skin shine through it. But yeah, like, so yeah, that is one example, translucent pants and stuff, which people love to paint. Translucent fabric. You can do on 28 to good effect. All right, more leather. Many leathers, all sorts of leather. And I will do another highlight on this above the orange brown. So I will add some off-white into my orange brown to build a burnt orange and do that when we get there. Because you want to be able to make some of the, like, these little ties kind of stand out against the dark background we've got. There. Yep. Yeah, it's difficult because you have to very much simplify. And also the sculpting scale is completely different. So your normal human is, what, 8 heads tall? 7 or 8 heads tall. And your average miniature is 5 heads tall. So there's the head, right? And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how much the scale is exaggerated. That's why you get like hands that are, the hands in this one are in scale, but you get heads that are bigger at this scale because if you were to sculpt a model with normal proportions at 28, it would look wrong. You get pinhead syndrome. So it's there's a lot of different kind of conventions. I am going to get some white and at least get that buckle drawn out so that I don't forget it. But yeah, so 28, there is a lot you can do, but there's a lot you also can't do, or that's just kind of useless at this scale. That's why you see so many high-level painters gravitate toward busts, by the way, because you have so many more options to play with all of that you really can't portray on something this little. Which it was why it was nice when we actually got to work on the Pirate Girl bust on this stream, because it's a totally different way to paint in a lot of ways. There's so much more you can do. I'm going to grab this and do a 2-to-1 on this white. And then I'm going to sketch in my details real quick so I don't forget that buckle. Otherwise, I will forget the buckle. Guaranteed. The nice thing about things like my Goodreads author page being up is once it's up, it's there, and I don't have to worry about it ever again. I just have to make sure they add my books as future books come out. So that's kind of nice. It's all on the to-do list of fire and forget. Like, get it done and you don't have to mess with it again. I like those things. I like those things. My book is still selling a copy every couple days. So I like to sketch into these things like these little buckles in white because then it's going to stick out like a sore thumb and it's going to remind me to paint it. And also the thing to remember about all that stuff, about like the light and color theory, is that it only applies if you're painting in a realistic fashion. If the style that you're going for is not realistic, then it's optional, purely optional. If you're trying to do like cartoon style, your shadows are going to be black. And, you know, maybe you're doing something just totally different. Maybe cartoon style is probably the most obvious one, but I take this to heart because with the Mark Maskelyne's class, one of the things that he said that resonated with me was like, keep in mind your goal at the start of the model. Your goal does not have to be realism. Your goal can be, I'm just playing with textures. So don't feel like, even though, you know, yes, the proper way to do X or Y or Z is X. If that's not your goal, you don't have to worry about it. Okay. I don't know. If I get to doing the gold NMM back there, or the brass, then yeah, although I was going to do the silver instead. But, well, we'll see, Pendrake. I'm in no hurry to attach her wings. Most people seem to think that she's nicer without anyway, and I want to cut her off this base. I want to put her on something else. So I probably don't want to attach the wings before I do that. Yeah, some of them are, but then the head does tend to look a little smaller. Bobby's scale is very much like Werner Klock's, and I think it's the for me, it's the best scale for miniatures. I really don't like 6 heads miniatures because then the head does tend to be smaller and then it's harder to paint. Yeah, I had talked about the wings yesterday, but that was before I saw the base over here that I wanted to pin her on and went, oh yeah, I want to pin her on the new base. Yeah. Sometimes it's just a, hey, I see something and it reminds me that I wanted to do something else. Although there are so many people who come onto this stream and like her better without the wings, I don't think it's a bad thing to put off attaching them. I'm gonna get these straps, which I totally almost forgot. Oh, need to get in focus land. Oh, no alpaca lord, huh? Yep, plans change. I don't ever, anything I say on this, Pendrake, like, it's always subject to change. Maybe I wake up and I'm like tired and I don't really feel like I can do NMM, you know, that kind of thing. I reserve the right to change my topic slightly. Besides, we've already slotted the wings in, so we know like that they look good on the miniature, so it's not like the wings need to be there. All right, so there's all, I think that's all of the belts and straps and pouches. Nope, one more. Oh, I depend on that, Shadow Raven. I depend on it. I purposefully put things out where I will see them so that it reminds me to do a thing. Like, I know that, like, that's part of building, like, habits, actually. It's, like, making it, like, easy. Making it very easy. So, like, if you want to build the habit to take your vitamins or to floss your teeth, like, put those things out where you will see them at the time of day that you would be, you know, looking to do that. So, like, I put my floss right next to my toothbrush and then I don't forget to floss. So I do that all the time. I leave things. That's why I put that base out right next to Sophie up on the shelf so that I would see it and remember, oh, I want to cut her off this base. So yeah, for me, it's not a detriment. It's a superpower. All right, let's get this highlight going on. Yeah, it's addictive. I mean, magnetizing is addictive, but why would I? I mean, essentially, the reason to magnetize for me has always been if you're going to swap a part out for another, not if you're going to put a thing on or not. Because when they're not on, then they leave these horrible gaping holes. So the wings, either you need to make the choice, in my opinion, either you need to make the choice, am I going to use the wings or am I not? And if you're not going to use the wings, then you sculpt hair over those little holes and you're done. But yeah, I know people who magnetize. The most common magnetizing I see is 40K, like Titans or Knights, sorry. Because the weapons swap out, right? So yeah. Yeah, the reason is only if you're going to swap out parts, I think, Agent Marvel. Or like another great reason to magnetize is if you've put in a micro LED to light up part of a model and you've run that down, you know, inside the model, then making a panel, essentially making a, you know, when you put something in there, when you put the battery pack in there and you need to hide it, doing the panel magnetized so that you can pull it off and just go in and change the battery, that can be very useful. Yeah, I don't think everything is, like, necessary, Agent Marvel. I think they just get addicted to the technique because it's fun. And who knows, maybe they're just, like... Maybe they're not bothered by the gaping holes and they would honestly want to run this character with or without wings. And if that's so, then more power to them. All right, I need to actually thicken up my Harvest Brown. It has gone a bit... transparent. And that is the thing about Harvest Brown, but it's also why it makes a nice highlight for leather, actually, because it's easy to blend. That's true. But once she goes to Ron, she's not going anywhere else, so. But yeah, transport is a good point. That would probably be a good reason. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm too lazy. Too lazy to be magnetizing things. Plus, be aware, if you use those tiny magnets, keep them away from your pets. Can cause serious medical issues if allowed to be ingested by a pet. All right, so see, that first layer of highlight is pretty orangey, but it blends in really well. Yeah. So I'm just pretty much getting the edge here with this, the harvest brown. But notice how nicely that like blends in. Like if I get really close, I can see a demarcation line, but I'd need to get really, really close. And it's bringing that detail out really nicely. I probably will do silver on her this little design here. I think I'm going to do silver to go with the buckle, the coif, and the hip armor. So I'm going to leave that as it is. Yeah, I just never got that, like... That, and it always, like, seemed to me like just removing and replacing parts was just, like, gonna lead to chipping. So, I would... When I actually was playing stuff, I would just have 2 versions of the character or 2 versions of the model. Won't have much room to highlight inside that buckle, so we just dab a little bit on there. Black and brown, harvest brown, and orange brown. So instead of using russet harvest and orange brown, which is the actual triad, we're swapping in black and brown because it's darker. And then I'm going to be adding a bit of probably bleached linen or creamy ivory or linen white to further push up that orange brown so we can get it a little bit shiny, because leather does tend to have a bit of a shine. Yeah, so probably not for you. You're right, Agent Marble. All right, I need to get some liner here so that I can trim up some stuff if I get outside of the lines. So I'm going to grab my Rogue Shadow because it's close to hand. And of course I have to unclog it because today is unclogging day. Extreme unclogging day. Today actually is Patreon day. I'm working on my hair video for this lady. No, this lady. Now that she looks her skin is much nicer. So I'm going to be doing my blonde hair video today with mixing to show how to highlight that nicely. It's nice hair, so I'm actually excited about working on it. And thank you for the bomb, Quindy, on that list. You will find my YouTube, which has some good foundation of mini painting videos for new people. And you will find my Patreon, which has all sorts of topics on everything. And you will find my writer site for those who are interested in my book. I'm interested to see how my email promotion works, if it even does. That's my next exciting thing. That's at the beginning of next month. The grand experiment This is where I'm starting to experiment. So I actually read books on business and stuff and entrepreneurship because I guess I am one. I guess I kind of stumbled into being one. But one of the things that is said often is that you should always assume that for the first 1 to 3 years, you're making no money. And when you do make a little bit of money, you should put it back into your business. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I don't actually get any of the money from my book until the end of May. I think the last day of May. Memorial Day, essentially. But then I will essentially deduct what I'm spending on these email deals, and I'll look at what I have left, and I'll think about maybe playing with some advertising just to see how it works. It's usually not, I mean, I probably shouldn't advertise before I have book 2 out, but I kind of want to just get used to the platform and see how to do it. And so I might run like a 1-week thing. Oh yeah, the city terrain. Terrain, I could totally see it. Because then it makes sense, right? You're putting walls and doorways down and you want them to be solid in, you know, what's sticking together solidly and not knocked over. That's brilliant, Inara. That's a totally brilliant reason to use magnets. But yeah, that's super smart. All right, I'm going to trim up. I got a little bit outside of my line there with the belt top, so I'm going to trim it up with some liner, and then I'll continue highlighting. I like to, when there's little bits like this where I get a little bit out of the line, I just like to fix it right away. So that then I don't have to worry about it. So I finally got my button gear and I cleaned out my fountain, which has been sitting just kind of like not going all winter. Which actually it was kind of a pain, but it wasn't bad. So now I have my fountain again for the summer, which I'm super happy about. Kiki's listening to it right now. She's probably happy because she it was always on when she was a baby. So she's used to the water sound. All right, so on this little belt, top and bottom highlights. Top and bottom highlights, leaving dark in the middle because belts tend to curl that way. They tend to curl up at the edges. Little pouchy thing here is kind of under her arm. It's going to be under her wings too, so I'm not going to do more than one highlight on it probably. Oh, that makes sense, Inara. And it looks really bright when you first put the highlight down, but as it dries, it blends in more and more. And you see that it's not nearly as bright as it looks. It starts to fade, and then it starts to really blend in. So if I want to, I can do a little bit of blending with a mixture of the two colors on that pouch. But you can see it's just enough to bring out the detail of that crease right there. I missed a spot there. There we go. Oh, that's right. I was using a black base underneath this model so that it would actually show up. There we go. They might have Pendrake. Yeah, now that it's warmer weather, I'm like totally back on my fruit kick. I love fresh fruit during the warmer months. Which is nice for my diet because I don't eat as much chocolate. Slightly more carbs, but fewer calories. Little bits of highlight on those belts. And usually when sculptors will sculpt these little belts, you will notice that the edges do stick up. And so it's easy to highlight just those edges. And if you kind of blorf and kind of paint your highlight over the transition between belts, you can always grab your liner, put the line back in early on. Put a little bit of a highlight down under, but again, we're not going to go full up with that. We'll save our top highlights for the top of the belts. We just put a little bit on the bottom so that the details stand out. And these belts are way up under her hair, so only the tiniest little highlight probably on the lower down parts of those. Just to bring out a little bit of detail again. And I do need to line a little bit between the belt and the red here. I totally lost my liner. Alrighty, I think we're good there. Oh, there's a belt that I missed under there. Underneath where the swords cross, see it? And for stuff under there, you might not even need to highlight. It's really recessed. It's behind that, behind the other scabbard, and it's arguable. There's a little tiny bit that sticks out here that I'll probably highlight. Makes sense that you could make magnet holes for terrain that you 3D print. Couldn't think why you wouldn't be able to. Unless the printed material is really hard to drill. Okay, there we go. Little tiny bit of highlights there. Alrighty. So I'm keeping my harvest brown fairly thick. Almost a base coat level, because it does go translucent pretty fast. I can always do a little bit of a wet blend to get the transitions. Alrighty. Belt, etc. Okay, we've got all of our things with the first highlight. So now it's time for orange brown. And orange brown is going to be a very orange highlight. So we're going to make it quite small. We're really just hitting the top parts of stuff, or the stuff that flares out like the bottom edge of Mr. Pouch here. And this will just crisp up these details a bit. And if you want, you can stipple this, because this particular highlight, because this is where leather would wear, and where leather wears is where you tend to see the underlying kind of orangish tan leather emerge when a leather's been cured on the outside or colored. So on the edge of that pouch here, it's absolutely cool to stipple. So that's starting to bring out those details very nicely. It's a nice warm leather, goes well with the red, doesn't conflict too bad. Need to watch how much orange I put on it, because if I bring it up too orange, then it will start to conflict with the red and clash. So gotta be careful and just use little dabs of the orange at the parts where I really want the highlight. And we'll be going over that orange a little bit in order to, with a lighter color in just a moment. So that will help. but it really helps to pick out the little details. So I bought a Yarn Swift the other day. I've been kind of stalking the site for a while because they have nice Yarn Swifts and they have ball winders, because I need to get my yarn skeins into shape before I use them. And doing it by hand made me go crazy last time. But I managed to get the Swift on sale, and I found a ball winder that was an open copy that had been opened by a customer, but that had been double checked. So essentially was on sale for 50% off. They had one, and I yoinked that. So I saved like $50. So I feel like that's going to be good. I definitely have a knitting project or two that I want to do this summer. Oh yeah, that's true. You could use the software to put stuff in for, or holes in for magnets. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because some of the plastics did seem like they'd be kind of brittle and tough to drill. But I don't know a lot about 3D printing, so I wasn't going to otherwise bring it up. But if you say so, Inara, then I trust your experience. So if you get too much orange on there, it can get very, very orange. And that's why we need that last highlight where we're kind of muting this out and lightening it up. And I'm not going to put that highlight there, but I am going to put it over here on the belt. You can see that highlight brings up that lower edge of that belt. I do have an area here that I need to just block in with shadow. There. Alrighty. A little bit more. How's it going, crows? We are painting leather today. I no longer need this. Need to get rid of my reminder notes lest they gang up on me and make me think of things that are already done. Okay, got everything highlighted. Now I want my final tiny highlight. So I'm going to grab an off-white and grab some of my orange brown and transfer it to New Well and lighten it up. Where is my... Nope. Yeah, bleach linen. Hello, Modular Realms. Thank you for the raid. We are working on a... well, she could be used as just a normal warrior, but she's actually Sophie, which is a succubus. Her wings are over there, but she actually does have wings. We're working on the leather today. And I am Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. Actually, I just had my 20-year anniversary working for Reaper. Used to work full-time at the factory, but then I moved out west to be with my guy, and now I do streams. But I was Reaper staff painter for a long time. And so I do this stream every weekday from 11:30 USA Central Time. We do about an hour and a half. Thank you, Modular. Yeah, I decided I really like blue-black armor. I especially like it on vampires, but I decided I wanted to do something different on this Sophie because I do regular gold and silver, steel, NMM a lot. Yeah, decided I wanted to go with this because it also goes really well with the red cloth. But yeah, she's cool. So she's actually getting really close to done now. All right, and I'm just mixing up a leather. We're doing really orangey leather. So I'm taking my off-white, which is bleached linen, and I'm making kind of a peachy color, like kind of like that almost. That's what happens when you add the off-white to the orange-brown. Then we're going to thin it just a little bit so we don't get like super strong highlights. I just want a little bit just to bring out some of the details. There we go. But yeah, we do all sorts of models. We work on a different model every day. We have a 6-model rotation. So we're working on a bunch of others. One of the other ones that we're actually about done with right now, a couple of them, is we just finished this guy, except for his basing. I need to figure out what I want to do for his basing. It's pretty cool. And the other one that we're almost done with right now, and again, we're working on her basing. We're sculpting some flagstones, is our necromancer girl here. She's a cutie. She's Quindy's favorite, our mods. So we did the book and all of that stuff. So yeah, I paint to a pretty high level, but I also love to answer questions from people who are newer to painting. So that's kind of my thing. I like to teach. It's chain. I'm pretty sure it's a chain coif, Agent Marble. So. But yeah, and I do some sculpting on the stream too. We usually sculpt basing elements. Sometimes I do a conversion, things like that, just to show people how to use green stuff to blend parts together if they're separate pieces. All right, I need some water in that orange. But yeah, that's how we run here. That's how we roll. And mostly I work on 28mm character models. Every once in a while we'll toss a monster in. But not anything too big because I don't want it to go on forever. Since when you have a 6-model rotation, it can take you months to go through a mini. Even at 5 days a week. All right, but we did... I guess Old Spice Genie is the biggest... Oh, Fishy. Fishy, actually. I need to do his base. Or do more on his base, maybe. So this is one of the elemental dudes that we did recently. Elemental Scion. This is the water one. We did NMM Copper on that one. And Fishy also has some nice freehand fish scales up on his back. And then... when you get close, you can see there's lots of little stipples and texture in the water. Stuff like that. Yeah, don't ask me to do a dragon. It's true. Yep, fishy. But yeah, so we do some bigger stuff sometimes. But it does take a long time to do those on stream. But yeah, dragons are just way too big and repetitive, so they're not fun. People think they'll be fun, and then they're never fun. That's pretty cool, Vitulari. I'm just going to do a little bit of a stipple here around the edge of the pouch to show where. Ah! And my camera is going to get totally screwed up there for a second. 1 second. Let me get closer. So you can see the little bit of texture there on the end of the pouch just to make it stand out a little bit more. All the dragons in the chat who know they're not fun. It's not that they're not fun, it's just that the time that they take to do and how repetitive they are not fun. If they were more colors and if they had more different kinds of scales, they would be more fun. But I still don't know that I would paint one on stream because I would just get so bored. That's cool. The ugliest dogs. My puppy usually makes an appearance earlier in the stream, but she is conked out in the other room now. She will wake up shortly and probably come to poke me and say, "Hey, where's my walk? Is it time for my walk yet?" Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. The excitement. You get excited, you're like, a dragon! Then you start it and you realize what a slog it is, and you're like, ugh. Like, this smile goes into a frown super fast. Yep, yep. Yeah, that's why I like, eventually we'll probably paint Julie's dragon bust from ReaperCon, because it's just a bust. It's just the head and the neck. And that I think I could handle. If you airbrush, they can be super fun, because then you can do almost all the stuff with the airbrush, and you can just pick out little details like claws and eyes and mouth, which are the fun parts to paint anyway. Okay, got that stuff standing out. I've got one and I don't really use it. The setup and takedown time are always a little prohibitive for me. And I wouldn't use it to like glaze like a lot of artists do, because I actually am really good at glazing with a brush. So for me, it's just easier to just glaze the way I know than try to learn a new tool to do exactly the same technique with less control. So yeah. I don't know. Base coating big models though, that's kind of what I would want to use the airbrush for. So at some point, maybe this summer, I'll drag it out and give it some exercise. So that came up a little bit too bright, so I'm going to have to knock that down a little bit. Yeah. Oh no, go have fun. Go eat. And thanks for the raid. Yep, hope you have a great dinner, Modular. Nice to meet you. Just a little bit of, I'm going to grab my harvest brown. I'm going to knock down that orange brown. Ah, uh-oh, a little bit too much. Oh no, it took over. Get some water on there and rub it off before it takes over the world. Okay. All right, I think we're pretty good there. I think we're pretty good. Feel like our leather is good. All right, well let's, oh, I haven't done this one. There we go. So that ends up with a nice warm leather that's pretty unobjectionable. And since we did use a little bit of the same colors to highlight her hair, it isn't clashing too bad. It also helps that the blue, the dark blue, is kind of between this and the red. And of course we'll have a little bit of chainmail here too. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, big dragons can be problematic. All right. I will actually end up doing what I thought I was going to do. I'll base coat the gold, because I don't know that I'm in the mood to tackle the chainmail right now. So we'll see. Probably do some wet blending on the chain. So we're going to grab my rich leather, my old reliable base coating for gold color. So that's 9429. Even though it's a leather color, it makes a great base for NMM gold and brass. Bronze, I would go darker. I would actually use the NMM gold shadow for bronze because it is a little greener. The coif is male. That is a piece of jewelry, so that'll be gold. And this is male. But the edge is probably going to be gold. But that's it. Like, there's nothing else. Just the coif and the skirt. But I'm kind of still debating what color I want to use for that male, so whether I want to put some blue in it or not. Probably will. But until I have a more firm idea of it, I'll just base coat my my gold. Uh-oh, bye, Turgeon! Be safe. Okie dokie. All right, so let's get a base color onto all these areas that we have still have in gray. The side panels, maybe. They're almost like padded armor, but I chose because I wanted to have more than just one area of chain, so I'm going to paint them as if they're steel. I think it's just simplified, like chainmail texture with these. I mean, this looks more like chain than that does, but it's similar enough that I'm just going to run with it. Man, I need a nap today. Do not feel like I got a lot of good sleep last night. Not sure what's up. Oh, have fun, Shadow Raven. Oh no, Agent Marvel. Yeah, that you were like, thank you, reality, for giving my dream verisimilitude when I really didn't need it. We never have big thunderstorms here. I kind of miss them and I kind of don't. Like, I don't like all the tornado warnings. I don't miss that. Miss thunder, though. I do like storms. Just gonna trim this up a little bit. As we slowly take down all of our bits of gray. There we go. I have my Sigma models out on my desk in the other room. I keep being tempted to start them. But I'm waiting for a color scheme on the one. Got that. Oh, Crowley. Have fun. Signum's got some really pretty models. Don't go look at their site unless you have money, Agent Marvel. They have some really gorgeous stuff. So unless you've got money to burn on minis, don't go over there because they will get you. Oh dear. Yeah, that can be rough, Tyler. Alrighty, and then the bottom part of this. I actually didn't buy their bigger models. I actually bought 2 smaller models. I was tempted by the unicorn that people have painted. I really like it, but I ended up buying stuff that was easier to complete. And then this little jewelry piece right up here, the little brooch. Now, the brooch, technically, I could underpaint, and I probably should. So let's do that, because it's very fiddly. So let's do a liner coat, and then do white, and then do our gold. You could also do the gold and do a wash, but that can be hard to control over such a small area. Ugh, that's crazy, Dabber. I just really want it to get warmer. Every time I go out now, I'm just like, please, can it get warmer than this? Where is my warm weather? Although tomorrow it's supposed to get in the 70s and it's supposed to stay for 3 days. So I'm like going to be a happy Ann. Happy Ann during that time. So then we'll get our white and we're going to paint over all these little bits. And that helps bring out those details. Then we'll put the gold over the top. Yeah, I'm in the mood for warm weather. I'm sick of having to wear coats, and I even have to wear my stocking hat when I go out for my walk in the evening. I just want it to be warmer. So then that underpainting keeps all that stuff showing up. Tongari, this is this model. Sophie is a Reaper's mascot. She's a succubus, so she actually does have wings, which I already finished. We're almost there, but she's available. She was a ReaperCon model, but she's still available. So she does have her succubus wings that go on her too. I'm just going to wait to attach those until I'm done. Because I want to also cut her off her base and put her on something different. Yep, and there's Quindy just gave you a link in the chat so you could look at it. But yeah, it's a nice model. If you don't put the wings on and you just fill in the wing gaps, it's a nice model for a warrior, female warrior. All right, and it is actually about the end of the stream. So I'm just going to put a little bit more paint to put the gold base down here on these little details, a little bit of a heavier coat, and we still can see all the details on that brooch, so we have succeeded in our quest there. I could have also done that with this area too, but it's a little bigger, so I think I can line that. Oh no, I did a base a while ago just for fun after using cork. I had cut up somebody else's base and also used a bunch of cork, and it thought it looked like a great rubble base. So essentially I'm going to put her on this. I might need to sculpt in some of these areas and make sure that there's enough room for her to stand on it. But I should be able to fit 1 foot over like here, and we'll see if I have to putty in some area over there. But, and then so it's more like kind of a rubble and shattered earth kind of dungeony base. I need to carve away some of the stuff on the edge of the sprue too. Maybe do a little bit of green. Yeah, because it has to update every day. So there's not a command. I can see why there wouldn't be a command. But yeah, so just going to use this one because I realized that it would be a pretty good dungeon base if I dressed it up a little bit, Richard. Yeah, because if you're going to cut off a base like this, you can cut it into chunks, and if you've got a bunch of cork and shavings, you can just like throw it down on some super glue. I had some green on the bottom of this one too, to make the base go away, or make the slot go away. But yeah, so I can dress this up a little bit more and kind of shave away the edge here to make it more integrated, and add some green stuff, and then we will do this. Yes, and Luca is canceled today, so yeah. So essentially I'll figure out where her little feet sit the best. I think she's probably going to be over here. I may put a nice skull down in this little nook, but yeah. And I'll do some putty work to make everything look like it belongs together. Maybe in some filler, use some of my modeling pastes to fill in some of this stuff and make it seal it in and make it fit a little bit better together. But yeah, so, and then I'll have, once I chop her off this base, I'll have even more base bits that I can use to do the same thing. You can also use sprues from Games Workshop products this way. A lot of us used to, back in the day, we used to all create rubble by cutting up sprues. So yeah. I don't always, Richard, because I can always sculpt it. But for some reason I just had a lot of debris and I was like, you know what? I can make a base out of this. And so I did. So it's really an impulse thing for me. I don't if I kept everything, I would be back in Pack Rat Land, and I escaped from Pack Rat Land a long time ago and I don't ever want to go back. So yeah, so I do not save near everything. But if I see an opportunity to utilize pieces spontaneously, then I'll just do that. Spez Marines, yes. Well, no wonder we're Alpacalus, because that can take anybody's wind out of their sails, having to paint Space Marines. All right, folks. I think we're about right, so we're going to call it. So we did actually get our leather done today, and we got our gold sketched in. Next time we'll be able to finish the NMM on this sucker and cut her off of her base, put the wings on, and then maybe we'll work a bit on this base. Once I have her off of this base, I can see where she might fit, and I can see where I might have to sculpt a couple of little flat areas on this base to make sure she's got good footing, and that makes sense. Yeah, I really like her. I think she's one of the better things I painted recently on stream, actually. Thanks, Twisted Oma. Yeah, and tomorrow is, tomorrow is metal. Tomorrow's so metal. Oh, look at this, metal's looking pretty good. Pretty happy here, actually. Pretty happy. We have to do the sword. But I'm really, and the elbow. But then I need to figure out, I think I mentioned maybe blue, grays, and whites, like a white cape, so we'll go Arctic with her. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So that's what's up for tomorrow, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks again for the heads up that my Goodreads author page is up. Yay! Progress. All right. Have a fun day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.